Welcome to another insightful episode of Insights and Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Dawn, and today we're going to dive into unmasking a silent ghost that haunts many, particularly my Black sisters. We're talking about Imposter Syndrome. I had to give a little shout out to spooky season with the last sentence, silent ghosts and haunts. Whatever, it's October. Let's have fun. Anyway. Imposter syndrome is that eerie voice whispering, you don't belong here, despite the fact that you have hard-earned accomplishments. It's one of those aspects that lead us into code switching, but we'll dive into code switching and the details of that next week. Today, as we delve into one of my personal stories, my goal is to inspire you to aim and dismantle the shackles of doubt and embrace the journey of belonging and self-acceptance. So take a deep breath as we step into a world where validation comes from within, not from the voices around. Let me start by saying that imposter syndrome isn't reserved for the Black community. I did not want to come across as implying that it is a Black woman's issue. However, this is my primary focus as I'm sharing my personal story and talking about my Black experience as a woman and the experiences of those around me who also happen to be Black women. I welcome any listener who would like to come on the show and share their stories to send me an email at hello@insightsandhindsight.com. I would love to hear how imposter syndrome affects all women around the world and to help us find a way to overcome it. Imposter syndrome, as its name entails, wears a unique disguise. It's a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent, internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. The issue is statistically more common in women and the most common in Black women. With the constant need to switch up, to basically morph into what's deemed acceptable by others, the weight of unworthiness often settles heavy on our hearts. Studies reveal that about 70% of people experience imposter feelings at some point in their lives, but the narrative deepens for Black women, where social judgments, societal expectations, and all things in between amplify those unsettling feelings. A study by KPMG found that 75% of female executives across different industries have experienced imposter syndrome at some point in their career. The prevalence rates of imposter syndrome have been reported to vary significantly from 9% to 82%. The wide range is largely due to the different screening tools and cutoffs used to assess symptoms of imposter syndrome. It's also noted that the imposter syndrome is common among both men and women across a range of groups from adolescents to late-stage professionals. The article that I found in Psychology Today suggests that about 25 to 30% of high achievers may suffer from imposter syndrome. Additionally, it mentions that around 70% of adults may have experienced imposter syndrome at least once in their lives. I am one of the 70%, and I've experienced it a couple of times. But one time in particular stood out the most for me when I do my reflections, when I take insight into my own hindsight, and that's the story I'm going to share today. In a world that often seems to demand a version of us that fits nearly into predefined boxes, we dance a delicate dance, a dance between authenticity and acceptance. The fear of being unmasked, the dread of being seen as a fraud, haunts many, despite their accolades or accomplishments. However, through therapy, I have learned that my personal dance with imposter syndrome was born by my experiences as a child and young adult. It was gifted to me by those around me who were overly critical yet overly praising. Constantly being labeled as the smart one placed an unrealistic level of expectation on me that I fight to this day. Coming from a family where there was a ton of comparison also helped to fuel this fire. And let us not forget the ex-husband who made it his business to remind me how I was never doing or being enough. One thing that I learned is that childhood experiences shape self-perception and can sow the seeds of self-doubt that contribute to imposter syndrome. As I said earlier, I want to share one of my stories on how I succumbed to imposter syndrome, one of many I might add, and also how I have fought to overcome it. But first, let us hear a word from our sponsor. Hello, friends. Today I have some super exciting news. We have our first sponsor. Our awesome sponsor, the Achievement Agency, is here to help single moms who are looking for jobs. They have this cool service called the Resume Revamp that can help make your resume shine. So imagine having a best friend, an auntie, a coworker, whoever that knows exactly what a job wants at the company that you're wanting to apply for, and they can put some razzle dazzle on your resume to make it perfect for that particular position. They find the magic words to help your resume get noticed by the applicant tracking system, which is basically the AI that screens your resume before it gets to an actual human being. Magnify your resume to skip over the ATS, the applicant tracking system, to get it in front of the human, and then the human can make the decision. The resume revamp, they make sure that your resume tells a story in a way that will catch the eye of the people who are hiring, so it doesn't get lost in the pile with a bunch of others. And the best part, it's totally free for those who qualify. You answer a couple of questions, it's like less than 7 questions, to see if you qualify for this free program. And even if you don't qualify for the free program, they will still offer the service for you for like a minimal amount of money. If you're a single mom and you need a little help, if you're unemployed, underemployed, looking to scale your career, if you need help with a resume, reach out to the Achievement Agency, sign up for their resume revamp. They have done this in the past and they have had 100% success and satisfaction with those who have gone through this program before. If you need to go back and look, you can take a look at their Instagram page. And for those of us who are challenged when it comes to spelling, I look for the red squiggly line when I'm typing. They're at TheAchievemenTAgency at the Achievement Agency on Instagram. You can email them at help@theachievementagency.org. HELP@theachievementagency.org. With that, everyone needs a little help these days. The new year is coming. We want to get out of these raggedy ass jobs that we have. We're trying to get to bigger, better things. We're trying to get bigger and better bags. So let the Achievement Agency help you get out of whatever it is that you're in and get you into something that much better. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I would read the encyclopedia and get inspired. So for those of you that are listening and have no idea what an encyclopedia is, Google it. Encyclopedias were essentially Google in a set of hardback books. I love them in medical journals. I would go to the library, look in I forgot what it's called. The index table. No, it wasn't called the index table. The box that had all the index cards. What was that thing called? I'm not about to Google it, and we're not about to edit this, so it is what it is. For those of y'all who are old enough to understand what I'm talking about, you remember what I'm talking about. Leave what that's called in the comments because I can't remember to save my life. Anyway, I would go there and I would look up whatever topic came to mind. I was obsessed with reproductive health and anything that had to do with reproduction. Not necessarily sex per se, but just how the human body worked and how we were able to create another human. That was utterly amazing to me. I would sit there and read it and read it and read it and make copies of books and take home chapters at a time because, I had some books that I lost and they wouldn't let me they wouldn't let me borrow more books until I returned the books that I lost. And I wasn't about to pay for it. And I wasn't about to tell my mom that I lost them. And then she had to pay for it because that would have been a big deal. And we weren't about to do all that. Anyway, that's what I would do. I would just read and read and read about all things medicine, all things pharmaceutical, all things psychological. If it had something to do with health and wellness, I was in it. So I love them all of them. And I just knew that when I grew up, I would have a white coat and a shiny stethoscope. That is what my heart's desire was ever since I was old enough to read a book. I knew that I always wanted to be a doctor. As time progressed and I got older, I went through some changes as new individuals unwelcomely entered my life. As time passed, I changed from an outgoing, giggling girl to an oddly quiet girl carrying the weight of abuse that left my self-worth shattered. Those seeds of doubt were planted early, nourished by harsh words and actions that I endured, and the dream of being a doctor unknowingly turned into a fragile of hope that I desperately cradled in my heart. By the time I reached the point in life where most kids were choosing which college they wanted to attend, I was focused on escaping from my circumstance. I could not focus on anything but getting as far away from the people who told me that they loved me but failed to protect me. This became my goal in life. Long gone were the thoughts of the white coat and that shiny stethoscope. Instead, they were replaced with thoughts of escaping just to feel safe. Something that a young adolescent, but oftentimes many of us do. As the years spun by, life assured me into young adulthood, and as a late teen, I had moved across the country where I found a sense of freedom and relief. A new life had begun and I was excited. I was forging a plan to go to college in my new city and start my journey towards that damn white coat and that damn shiny stethoscope. However, that also became short-lived. In my haze of freedom and joy, I met another person who would set me back for years. Young, dumb, and naive, I attached myself to another person who was just as damaged as I was. Trauma attracts trauma. Keep that in mind. I lost focus on my goals and wound up married with 2 kids by the time I was 23 years old. By the time I caught my breath and took a look at my surroundings, I realized that my desires to work in the medical field were not lost. I just needed to find a new way. So I began to plan out how I was going to be a wife, a mother, and a college student. Then I realized that I was entangled in a marriage that was devoid of support and belief in my capabilities. My so-called husband was cold and indifferent towards my dreams, and he was like the frost that withered away my aspirations. And when I think about it, that's like the visual representation of what I see. I just see how you put out a plant and you forget that it's going to be the first chill, and that you leave it out there overnight and you come back in the morning and it's all withered away and hard and frozen because the temperature dropped. That's exactly what I think about, or what I see when I think about that particular part of my life. Nonetheless, I found myself seeking refuge from my past and the coldness of my marriage. I took the first step to divorce and started my journey as a single mom. I was not afraid of divorce. I welcomed it. I needed it. And I knew that. And despite the fact that I suffered from a lot of trauma and I did not know I had imposter syndrome yet, but I knew that something wasn't right. That's one thing that I knew that I had to do in order for me to maintain my sanity. Having kids, even though I had them early and I was not prepared, was the best thing that could have happened to me because it made me grow up real fast. It made me realize what's important in life. It made me realize that life is bigger than me. It gave me something to live for. It gave me something to fight for. It gave me something. It gave me a place to set my goals and something to work towards. So with that, I decided to go to college. I'm going to do it without the husband. I'm going to do it despite the fact that I'm a single mother of 2 kids. I'm going to do it even though I do not know how I'm going to have the time. I'm going to figure out a way and I'm going to make it happen. And I did just that. College was a journey of rediscovery. I found my voice there. I found my power there. Despite the many storms that raged during that time in my life, I excelled academically, getting straight A's. It was a silent yet loud testament to my capabilities. But that damn monster of imposter syndrome lurked in every corner of my success. It whispered that my achievements were mere luck and that I did not belong. I didn't understand why I felt that way. I didn't understand where it came from. It used to make me so angry, and I just would say, I'm doing so well, why do I feel so bad? I'm doing so well, why am I not happy? I am accomplishing everything that I sought out to do, but yet I am not satisfied. And for a long time, I thought it was because even though I had a coat and it was white, it said respiratory therapist instead of medical doctor. So for a while, I thought that's what it was. Well, I wanted to be a doctor my whole life. Even though I had a stethoscope and I used it every day with every patient as a respiratory therapist, I thought that I wasn't fulfilled because I didn't reach that particular goal, that dream. And it haunted me for the entire time that I worked in respiratory therapy and even for years after. It wasn't until later that I realized that that wasn't necessarily the case. As a respiratory therapist, every day was bittersweet. The love for what I did was genuine, and the joy of helping others was amazing. With every grateful smile from my patients, the gnawing doubt nibbled at my confidence. I knew my job well. Every procedure was etched in my mind. Every success was a beat of hope. I knew how to be a respiratory therapist. I knew how to do the math. I knew how to calibrate machines. I knew how to get people healthy. But the ghost of imposter syndrome was a relentless companion, whispering that I was living a lie and that I was a fraud. The clash between the love for my job and the haunting whispers of not being good enough was a daily battle. It drained the colors from my dream, leaving behind a gray haze of doubt. I remember one morning, I woke up, got dressed, looked at myself in the mirror, and what I saw looking back was not myself. It was like the face of someone who was capable and knowledgeable. That respiratory therapist was seemingly in the mirror, but my eyes reflected some kind of torment. And I realized now in reflections, in my insight into hindsight, that it was imposter syndrome. It was nudging me to step back, to relinquish the white coat that I actually did earn, because it wasn't the one that I dreamt that I would have. I ended up walking away from being a respiratory therapist after 2 years of working in the field. Ironically enough, walking away wasn't as hard as it may seem, or what you may think that it may have been, considering how badly I wanted to work in the medical field. And when I think about it, that is what saddens me the most. The chains of imposter syndrome that were placed on me, that were triggered by those who were supposed to love me, had gripped me up so tight, and I was struggling so hard to break free. Throughout the next decade, and with great therapists, imposter syndrome had loosened its grip, but the scars still remain. Even after leaving the respiratory therapist field and becoming an HR person, and to be honest, making more money doing HR than I would have done if I stayed a respiratory therapist for the past 20 years, I still yearn for that whole Dr. Dawn thing. Like, I can still see it. I still read medical journals. I'm more of an addict now than I was before, because now we have the internet. Like, I love learning. I love learning about the body. It's something that is forever changing. And as I work through my traumas and I realized what the catalyst was into why I walked away from the field that I had the most interest, it saddens me. Like, for a long time, I was just stuck there. Just stuck. But I'm happy to say that I'm now in the process of beginning my journey to obtain a PhD in psychology. It took me a long time to realize that I was actually a victim of imposter syndrome, and that it can show up in many areas of our lives. If it wasn't for therapy, I would no doubtably still be locked in those chains and not living the life of freedom that I currently have. I have learned that it doesn't matter what your age is or was when you go through or went through something traumatic. All trauma leaves scars. Scars hinder growth. Growth is needed for happiness. Happiness is needed for peace. Peace is needed for abundance. Abundance is what we all deserve. I want to encourage any and everyone listening who has gone through tough times in life to consider therapy if you haven't done so already. If you have tried it and it didn't work, try it again. We're not one-hitter quitters here. Keep going until you get it right. Having peace of mind is by far the best feeling in the world. It is 1,000% better than the best orgasm you have ever had in your life. Peace of mind is yours. It's not triggered by someone else. It's not caused by something outside of yourself. It doesn't waver. It's clear, it's steady, and it's concise. It ensures that you are making the best decisions for yourself, and it helps to keep you present. If you don't have that, commit to starting the journey to obtain it today. Don't let another day pass you by where you know you could have done better, but you didn't. Don't let another day pass you by where you know that you need help from somewhere or something that's bigger than yourself, and you choose not to take advantage of opportunities to get it. There are a lot of resources out here that we can all tap into to better ourselves, whether it's therapy, whether it's exercise, whether it's venting to friends that you can trust that are on a better side than where you want to be. Please don't vent to people who aren't in a position that you will want to copy. Like, if you are sitting there divulging information to someone who has not been through, has not seen, has not experienced, or has not been educated to reply, just don't waste your time. Some things you need to keep for yourself. Now, I'm not saying that trauma should stay within. No, get that out. But get that out with a professional, someone who was actually trained in the psyche of a human being, in the psyche of Black women, to help us heal all the shit that was done to us to make us the way that we are. We have a bad rap just because of the color of our skin. Not realizing it, none of us signed up for this. None of us signed up to be angry, bitter, untrusting, needy, nagging, whatever. All of those things were birthed, were conceived by something bigger than us, something outside of us. And we deserve better. You deserve better. You deserve to wake up every morning and smile. Let me not lie. Every day is not going to be a smile. But you deserve to wake up every morning and make the choice to smile. You deserve to wake up and have the ability to say, you know what? I'm going to ensure that today is the day. And why? Because you have peace of mind. Once you have peace of mind, no one can take that away from you. Nobody. It's yours. And I say that with a smile because it took me so long to get here, to the point where all I want to do is help other people. Once I found my own peace, I just want to just breathe it on other people after I brush my teeth and use some mouthwash and, a little mint or something, because I'm not trying to piss people off. But I just want to share it, like yell it from that sounds real country, yell it from the mountaintop. Like, everybody, please, just, if you can, heal. Please heal. Don't wait until you damn near 50 years old to be like, you know what? I want to get my life together. Get it together now. If you're listening to this now, it's because someone bigger than us has you in this place at this particular time for you to hear this message. Don't ignore it. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. Yesterday is not something that we can control. Please take the time to work on yourself. Please take the time to reach your goals. Please take the time to free your mind. Please take the time to find your peace of mind. Until next week, I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.